Hello, everybody. All right, happy Monday, everybody. Start of the final week of January 2025 here. Hopefully, everybody's having a good start to their week thus far. So, of course, we're gonna give people a chance to come in before we get started. So, a friendly reminder, of course, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, anyways, was watching some cartoons earlier. Actually saw, one of the ones I saw, of course, is Betty Boop adaptation of the Snow White story. So, that one was pretty interesting. So, anyways, let's see. So, this real quick. Let's see. So hopefully you guys also had a chance to check out last night's show at Apex on with me as we were going over, of course, comics that went on sale in April 1940 from Novelty Press. We read some very interesting stories: White Streak Man of War. Let's see, Space Hawk, Blue Bolt, and Dick Cole. And of course, as I was learning, yesterday when I was prepping for the show, Blue Bolt and Dick Cole were actually pretty popular characters for their time. So, let's see, we're at 2.5 minute mark, so I guess I can talk a little bit about what's on tap for tonight. So tonight we got a couple articles we're going to go over from Bleeding Fool, both comics related articles, of course. The first one we're going to look at is the latest adaptation coming out in regards to Captain Planet, the quote unquote adaptation for modern audiences. And then in our continuing coverage, of course, of the Neil Gaiman story, in the latest in that situation, Dark Horse Comics has decided to part ways with Neil Gaiman amid the allegations against him. Also, of course, we'll have the Wrestling Roundup, get caught up on all the weekend's actions. From WWE and AEW, look ahead to this weekend's. Of course, as tonight will be the Go Home Raw before this Saturday's Royal Rumble. So we will. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Talk about everything. And then we will also. And then we'll also, of course, finish the show off by going over this day meets history. Some of the stuff that's happened over time here. With all that being said, let's see, we're coming up on 4.5 minutes, so I guess I'll go ahead and get started on going over this story here. And just a friendly reminder here, if you guys help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started on our material here. Here's the first story we're going to go over here. From mullet to millennial, Captain Planet's 80s eco-propaganda gets woke makeover. Article by Avi Green, published January 6, 2025. And many of us, well, technically, though, Captain Planet came out, I think, in 1990. It wasn't in the 80s. It was a 90s cartoon. But anyways, I'm sure many of us had watched it over the years. Anyways, Superhero Hype announced that Dynamite Entertainment's launching a new take on the old Captain Planet and the Planeteers cartoon from the early 90s, which was an early example of political environmental propaganda for its time. It is written by a scribe who may have once worked as a specialty news journalist. Now, mind you, of course, just a reminder, of course, of some of the actors who lent their voices to the show, including, of course, the current View host Whoopi Goldberg as Gaia, the spirit of the earth. Let's see. Janice Kawai as Guy. LeVar Burton as Kwame. I think Scott Menville as can't remember the kid in South America's name. Let's see. Ed Asner, of course, provided the voice of Horace Greeley. So, among many of the voices. So, let's get it. Okay. So now Avi's referencing the article here. So, running for 6 seasons, Captain Planet and the Planeteers was notable among superhero cartoons of the 1990s, while most children's programming of the era was focused on selling toys, which had been for like the previous 20 years or so, goes all the way, you can date that all the way back to the 70s, but on that. Captain Planet promoted environmental awareness and activism. Earth's greatest champion offered viewers tips on how they could help save the world in small ways, advising viewers that, quote-unquote, the power is yours. Now, Dynamite Entertainment is updating the series in a new monthly comic. The new series will be written by writer David Pepose, best known for his work on 2024 Space Ghost reboot. Pepose is joined by Vampirella artist Iman Casillas, who will provide the comic's interiors. Dynamite has also confirmed covers by Mark Spears, Christian Ward, and Ben Oliver for the first issue. Additionally, Jai Lee and Jun Chung will produce a series of interconnecting covers for the series' first 6 issues. And now we come back to Avi here. Let me see if anybody's saying anything yet. All right. Again, feel free to comment and or ask questions if anything grabs your attention here. And I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So Avi here, their idea of reflecting modern sensibility is to draw Captain Planet with a beard rather than a mullet. It also says, going back to the article, the series will feature the same 5 Planeteers as the original Captain Planet cartoon. However, the comic will denote their specific nationalities rather than describing as being from Africa, Asia, North America, or South America. In other words, instead of saying what continent they're from, they're going to actually, I think, focus on specific country. The comic will also reportedly see emotional arcs for each of the Planeteers as they overcome personal issues to work together for a better tomorrow. Let's see. And here's Avi's response to that statement. Well, if it emphasizes their nationalities and local cultures, like food recipes, that can be getting somewhere, seeing how the most woke products stuck tightly to superficial components like skin color and LGBT ideology. But that part about quote-unquote better tomorrow reeks too much of the alterations DC is making to Superman's slogan, and it's not pleasing at all. Mainly because, as this Pawning Newsrama report says, so now um, referring to another article here. Lucian Plunder seems to be the updated version of the original villain Luton Plunder, whose name is, of course, a play on loot and plunder, his favorite things to do as a cartoonishly evil capitalist. Yeah. So now Avi's response to that, gee, if that's the direction they intend to impose upon this new adaptation, then they clearly aren't interested in exploring whether socialists are capable of evils. So what good does it do to adapt this old cartoon if they won't move beyond any cliches it embodied? It's just another excuse to follow the woke playbook of the modern leftist era then. All right, so there we go with that one. That one didn't take too long. A lot of these, probably some of these. Let me try to make more. Let's see who else. All right. All right. So, anyways, with that being said, now let's move on to the next story, of course. Next story we're going to talk about here, which is, of course, as I've said, we've been following the Neil Gaiman story for, of course, the last few months. And this is the latest story to come out on that. So, Dark Horse cuts ties with Neil Gaiman in wake of sexual abuse scandal. Article by Karina Schmidt, published today. They were, I guess, producing Neil Gaiman's Anansi Boys. Let's see what happened here. All right, so Dark Horse Comics announced through social media that they will no longer be working with Neil Gaiman. Have canceled his Anansi Boys comic series in the wake of the sexual allegations brought against the author. Now, Anansi, who, in case some of you don't know, is a legendary figure in African mythology. It's said to be a trickster spider. Now, of course, I didn't learn much about it until, of course, watching Static Shock. But also, I think Anansi was referred to in Gargoyles as well. So apparently, he was he was a storyteller, story weaver who had kind of magical powers to of illusion and all that. Bit of a trickster, as it were. Posting on X Friday evening, the publisher wrote, quote, Dark Horse takes seriously the allegations against Neil Gaiman and we are no longer publishing his works, confirming that the, in smaller quotes, Anansi Boys comic series and collected volume have been canceled. So, as Deadline reports, previous fallout from several sexual abuse allegations include Prime Video changing the originally planned full third season of Good Omens into a 90-minute movie finale, and Gaiman exiting his creative role on the project. Disney has also put a planned feature adaptation of Gaiman's 2008 The Graveyard Book on hold. Netflix's second season of The Sandman is expected to be released sometime this year after the series was already in production prior to the release of the allegations. Netflix did cancel Dead Boy Detectives after its first season. Now, mind you, the guy still hasn't been convicted of anything yet. These are just allegations, and yet people are preemptively, I guess from their point of view, they're preemptively covering their own rear ends. They don't want to get blood splattered on them from this, what could be a potential bloodbath here. I'm not meaning literal blood, but I'm being figurative bloodbath. More fallout is expected. So there we go with that. Wow, that one really was really quick there. So let's see now. So I'm gonna see if we can go and see if I can find some more articles in. Gonna go maybe for all I know since I last since I put everything up earlier, maybe some new stories came up that we can report on here. Let's see that. Let's see now. And again, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can like and share the screen, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here, um, grabs your attention, feel free to um, comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So let's see, look at specific things here. All right, let's see now. Okay. Well, it looks like we there. Sometimes that happens. Wow. Sometimes a lot of times I usually prep the stories in the afternoon. But sometimes what happens is between the time I, decide on the stories and the show, sometimes a story or two might get added. So that's exactly what happened here. We got a Cartoon Evolution story from MeTV Tunes. Regards to Bugs Bunny. Why don't we take a look at that? See how that all goes here. This should be kind of more of a lighthearted, fun one to look at here. Cartoon Evolution, Bugs Bunny, the origin story of our favorite little stinker. Yeah. The article published earlier today at 3:12 p.m. I think I'm hoping that's saying Pacific, because it was before that I had chosen the stories, but by MeTV Tunes staff. And look at some of the pictures there as he's depicted in. So it's time to discuss the origins of cartoon history's favorite rabbit, Bugs Bunny. Like Tweety and Elmer before him, Bugs went through plenty of character changes over the years as as a Looney Tunes character. He started out as an unnamed white rabbit, but six cartoons later, he was officially introduced to the audiences as Bugs, and then he was reintroduced a few more times with updated characters. Now, mind you, though, I think from what I understand, I think in some of his first appearances, he was actually named Happy Rabbit, I believe, early on, or at least that was probably some of the draft work. His name during the drafting of the character. Alrighty then. So, anyways, unlike Tweety and Elmer, who each had one sole creator, there were many cartoonists credited with creating Bugs. His creators include Chuck Jones, Ben Hardaway, Cal Dalton, Charles Thorson, Tex Avery, Bob Gibbons, and Robert McKinson. The imagination and skill of seven cartoonists came together to create one of the greatest bunnies to ever hop onto the screen. We are now going to break down Bug's evolutionary journey, beginning with his first appearance up until his finalized design. Let's see. And I guess his debut appearance happened in Porky's Hare Hunt, 1938. That was apparently, I guess, his debut appearance. Featuring the first appearance of the rabbit who would one day become Bugs, Porky's Hare Hunt is a black and white Looney Tunes short where Porky Pig and his hunting dog try to hunt for rabbits. Immediately, an unnamed white rabbit starts messing with them to keep the other rabbits safe, which would of course be the theme common for Bugs. Usually to mess with and prank the hunter, outfox the hunter, as it were. Um, let's see. Oh yeah, this early prototype of Bugs is very hyper and bounces around, much like early Daffy, while also having a bubbly, hokey voice like early Elmer Fudd. One of the directors of this short, Ben Hardaway, had the nickname Bugs. According to Chuck Jones, the original model sheet said Bugs Bunny, and that may have influenced the name they later gave the rabbit. Ben Hardaway, who would of course go on to probably do quite a bit of work for Walter Lantz Productions, was involved in the Woody Woodpecker shorts in the 40s and 50s, along with some of Walter Lantz's other characters, including of course Chilly Willy, Andy Panda, and the like. 1939's Presto Changeo. The next appearance of the, quote, unnamed white rabbit, unquote, was in Presto Changeo, a Merry Melodies short, where two stray dogs wander into a seemingly abandoned house. The house belongs to a magician, and his rabbit takes the opportunity to play magic tricks on the unsuspecting dogs. Yeah, I've seen this one before. It's kind of cute, funny with how he messes with them. Let's see. The rabbit is a little quieter than the one featured in Porky's Hare Hunt, only laughing at the dogs and not speaking to them. Um, while similar in appearance, the short is in color, giving the rabbit more detail in his appearance. The laughs and movement are less Daffy Duck like, but still boisterous and frantic. And you can just see as we transition from one part, as we transition from one part to the next. There, look there, number two, and then now number three here. Harum Scarum, 1939. Let's see. Let me see. All right. Now that Bunny is starting to look like Bugs. Harum Scarum is very similar in plot to Porky's Hare Hunt, in that it's a hunter and his dog hunting after Bugs. This time around, Bugs is gray and white. You see there. Again, closer, not as tall as he would eventually be, but and he's sprouting some Disney style yellow gloves, as you see there. Um, while this Bugs is still kooky and clicking his heels, um, he's much more toned down voice wise than the two previous cartoons. In this short, we really begin to see the character of Bugs taking form in his actions. He dresses up as a girl dog, which of course we know was a common theme for Bugs Bunny to do. Dress and drag to try to. You'd see him dress and drag and then kiss his adversary usually. Let's see. To distract the hunting dog, something that he would do many more times in the future. Slightly different quality began in this cartoon. Also, the gray rabbit chomps on celery and says, quote, "Celery, mighty fine nerve tonic. Boy, have I got nerve." Then as we get into 1940, Elmer's Candid Camera. Elmer's Candid Camera. The first pairing of Elmer and Bugs involved Elmer trying his hand at nature photography, and Bugs being his evasive subject. There aren't many changes in Bugs' appearance, other than this is from 1940, by the way. Aren't many changes in Bugs' appearance, other than instead of yellow gloves, his hands are made white, giving a natural glove-like appearance. The voice is once again slightly lowered, as is Bugs' energy levels. Instead of bouncing off the walls, he's quieter and more strategic as he messes with Elmer. Also in this cartoon, Bugs eats an apple and throws the core at Elmer. And here we go, right here. Number 5 here. A Wild Hare, 1940. He's finally Bugs. This is the first cartoon short where Bugs is officially named Bugs. In his autobiography, That's Not All, Folks, Mel Blanc remembers that the studio almost named Bugs Happy Bunny. Okay, I did hear a story about that. Before they settled on Bugs Bunny. But some animation historians disagree with the anecdote. This short sets up the bugs we know and love. He chomps on a carrot. He asks, "What's up, Doc?" in quote unquote. And his voice is deeper and much closer to the bug's voice. This is the first time Mel Blanc used a Bronx accent as inspiration for the voice, and it was a perfect fit. Bug's appearance is slightly changed as Elmer Fudd, as is Elmer Fudd's. Bugs was now much taller than before. The height made him look less babyish and cutesy, and more of the grown rabbit troublemaker he was evolving into. Another change in this cartoon is the pace before Bugs was frantically being chased around or chasing around, and a wild hare slows down the hunt slightly to allow Bugs more opportunities to mess with Elmer Fudd. This was the first big hit short that Bugs was featured in, and it was nominated for an Academy Award. Now, mind you, too, and this was also around the time, so it would be, I think, a short time after this that Mel Blanc would eventually sign his exclusive contract with Warner Brothers. Around this time and before, he was still doing multiple work. He was also doing, of course, around this time he was also, I believe, doing work with Walter Lantz, and he was basically the first voice of Woody Woodpecker as well. Mel Blanc was, for at least his first, I think, 3 or 4 appearances before signing the exclusive contract with Warner Brothers. Anyway, let's see if there's much more. Patient Porky, 1940. Number 6 here. Sometimes in character development, it's one step forward, one step back. After the major success of A Wild Hare, Bugs was a hit, and animators were desperate to include him in more cartoons. So, to up the ante for this Porky Pig short, they included a quick cameo of Bugs. But while visually he looked the same, the goofier, higher-pitched voice from Harum Scarum and Presto Chango. 1941, Elmer's Pet Rabbit. This cartoon was the first time Bugs Bunny's name was included on the title card. After the success of A Wild Hare, Elmer and Bugs were paired together again, and this time it was Bugs hunting Elmer, or Elmer's house. Yeah. From this point on, Elmer and Bugs had become a regular partnership, basically. These two were, a regular comedic partnership in many of the shorts. The Elmer adopts Bugs as a pet and keeps him in a pen outside with a bowl of vegetables. Bugs then tries a number of zany ways to trick Elmer into letting him live inside. This version of Bugs, nearly identical in appearance except for the yellow gloves, and are back. Also, his voice was majorly changed. The voice sounds a lot like Mel Blanc's normal speaking voice, which feels very cheap for Bugs. Number 8, Bugs Bunny Gets the Boyd. 1942. Bugs got another touch-up for this short, where he encounters a shy beaky buzzard. in this character design, Bugs Bug's head got rounder and less oval shaped, um, while also shortening his teeth and depuffing his tail. This is also kind of this was now you have to remember too that of course these animated shorts around this time were made for general audiences. They weren't specifically made for kids. They weren't necessarily specifically made for adults. But there are scenes sometimes in here that you would think that maybe the kids shouldn't have watched it. I mean, this is one of those shorts where, of course, you see in the short you see both Bugs and Beaky at both times looking like or the impression is that somehow they ended up dying, not dead but you see in Bug's case, his feet and his hands are kind of like he's under the ground, but yet you see the rib cage, the rib cage above the ground. So he's thinking that he might be dead, and Beaky ends up in that same position in this short, a little while later. Yeah. Let's continue on now. Let's see, what time is it? 37. Tortoise wins by a hair. 1943. Of course, this was a short. This is number 9 here. This was a short where, of course, this was one of Warner Brothers' adaptations of the story of the Tortoise and the Hare from Aesop's Fable. Tortoise wins by a hair is the final major character redesign for Bugs. Before, his body was mostly shapeless, while still trying to stay somewhat true to rabbit form. This version of Bugs is slender, fully anthropomorphic, basically meaning having human characteristics, walking upright like a human, for example, instead of hopping around like a bunny, with a bigger mouth and cheeks than before. Director Bob Clampett and animator Bob McKinson created new model sheets for Bugs to update his look for this short. But it quickly became the model used throughout Warner Brothers and still used today. Oh, there we go with that one. All right. So now with that being said, let's take a look and see. Let's see, where are we at on time? So we're at 38 minutes. So I'd say it's probably a good time to start moving on from the main stories to talking about get caught up in the wrestling wrap up here a bit. So let's go back over the weekend here. We'll first head back to Friday night. Go back and talk about what happened on Friday night SmackDown, heading into the following night's Saturday night's main event. So on Friday night SmackDown, as of course they're continuing to work towards this Saturday's Rumble. The opening match saw the Motor City Machine Guns defeat Pretty Deadly in a tag team match. Further adding to momentum for them to earn a shot at the SmackDown tag team titles. In fact, I do believe that with this win, it was announced that the Motor City Machine Guns would be challenging DIY for the SmackDown Tag Team titles at Royal Rumble. So that match was set up following that. B-Fab and Michin defeated Chelsea Green and Piper Niven in a tag team match. And then in a 6-woman tag match, Candice LeRae, Liv Morgan, and Nia Jax, with the help of Raquel Rodriguez, defeated WWE Women's World Champion Rhea Ripley and WWE Women's Tag Team Champions Bianca Belair and Naomi in this 6-man match. Apollo Crews defeated Johnny Gargano with Tommaso Ciampa in his corner. That also brought out the Motor City Machine Guns to help out Crews when Tommaso Ciampa decided to try to get involved in the match. Kevin Knight defeated Tama Tonga in a one-on-one match with Jacob Fatu in his corner, which also saw Fatu and Braun Strowman, confront each other prior to their match on Saturday night's main event. Damian Priest, having just been traded to SmackDown, gets his first win on SmackDown by defeating Carmelo Hayes. The main event saw Kevin Owens defeat Jimmy Uso, as Owens tried to further punish Uso. Cody Rhodes came out and a brawl ensued between Rhodes and Owens. So that, of course, all happened on Friday Night SmackDown. That all happened on Friday Night SmackDown. They continue to set up for this Saturday's. Of course, on that note, on Saturday night's main event, which happened the following night on NBC. And we get up there, which primarily featured mostly the Raw superstars, even though you did have a couple of things from SmackDown as well. So the night opened up with the Women's World Title match, in which Rhea Ripley defended the title against former WWE Women's Champion Nia Jax. Jax, coming off of her loss to Tiffany Stratton, challenged for the Women's World Title here, and Rhea Ripley was able to defeat her. In a match for the Intercontinental Champion, as Sheamus is trying to become a Grand Slam winner, winning the final piece that he needed to have, having won the WWE, Universal, World, and both tag team titles, I'd imagine, and the U.S. title. He only needed the Intercontinental title to become the Grand Slam winner. Braun Breaker was able to retain the title over Sheamus. However, some of the comments made by Jesse Ventura on commentary sparked the ire of Braun's uncle Scott Steiner, as has been rumored he will be at Raw tonight. We'll talk a little bit more about that, in which he may confront Jesse Ventura. Well, Jesse's actually not going to be at Raw, but there's been, again, there's always speculation floating around just who else will be joining in on, who else will be coming into the Royal Rumbles. Braun Strowman defeated Jacob Fatu via DQ, albeit Strowman after the match did not look like a winner. He was just completely mauled by the Samoan Werewolf. There's even some talk that WWE officials actually wanted Fatu to even further hit more moonsaults onto Strowman. They really wanted to make him look like a behave there, as it were. But some people are saying this might set up for a future match later. Maybe they have Strowman take some time off and then come back to get his revenge on Jacob Fatu at some later date. Also on the show, of course, Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens had their contract signing as moderated by HBK by the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, in which, of course, setting basically contract signing for the ladder match for Royal Rumble this Saturday. Afterwards, Kevin Owens tried to attack Michaels, only to get super kicked by Michaels, delivering the sweet chin mute. And the main event of the night saw Gunther retain the WWE World Heavyweight title over Jey Uso, which Jey Uso gained Gunther's respect. Gunther had just somewhat been dismissing main event Jey as just kind of a mascot or something not serious, but his efforts in this match made it to where Gunther had to take notice. So now of course we'll move. Well, actually, even before we go over to talk about AEW Collision. Let's first off look ahead to tonight's Monday Night Raw, as it's coming from Atlanta, Georgia. Let's see. The State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia on Netflix. Already signed for tonight. Sami Zayn will be taking on Drew McIntyre in a one-on-one match. In a non-title tag team match, the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions Bianca Belair and Naomi will be taking on former tag champions Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. In a match for the WWE World Tag Team titles, the War Raiders, Eric and Ivar, will be defending the titles against Judgment Day members Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough, as JD McDonough and Finn Balor had been the previous tag team, had been the tandem that the War Raiders beat for the tag titles. Only for the now you'll see, and it also has been rumored that Scott Steiner may be on the show tonight. Now, this being, of course, the Raw, the go home Raw before this Saturday's Royal Rumble. Let's take a look at so the Royal Rumble will be taking place from the Lucas Oil Stadium this Saturday. Of course, in a best 2 out of 3 falls match, current WWE Tag Team Champions DIY, as we just mentioned earlier, of Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, defend against former champs, the Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin, Alex Shelley. You also have in the main event, Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens in a ladder match, the unification title match for the WWE, WWE Universal, and the Gold Eagle belts, all be above the ring. Unify the title. Now, also, aside from those 2 matches, you have the men's and women's Royal Rumbles. Already announced for the men's Royal Rumbles include Shinsuke Nakamura, CM Punk, Rey Mysterio, John Cena, Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, LA Knight, Jey Uso, Roman Reigns. Those are already announced names for the men's Royal Rumble. On the women's side, you have Naomi, Bayley, Charlotte Flair, who basically made her who announced her entry this past Friday night. Nia Jax, Liv Morgan, and Bianca Belair. So still more names to be added to the two 30-person to the two 30-person Royal Rumbles. So now, with all that being said, of course, let's now get ready to move on. Let's also take a look back at this past Saturday night's Collision, AEW, as they continue to work their way towards Grand Slam Australia, which comes up in 2 weeks from this Saturday. Of course, this past Saturday's Collision came from Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida, Homecoming 2025. The opening match on the show saw Samoa Joe defeat Nick Wayne in a one-on-one match, in which you had in Joe's corner Hook and Katsuyori Shibata, while Nick Wayne, of course, had the rest of the patriarchy. The Battle of Champions here. AEW Continental Champion Kazuchika Okada defeated Ring of Honor World Television Champion Commander in a match that was considered pretty solid for the show. Very good match between these two incredible athletes. In a 6-man tag match that was watched by Shane Taylor Promotions, the Undisputed Kingdom of Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong defeated TNT champion Daniel Garcia, teaming up with 2.0 of Matt Menard and Angelo Parker. In a very big and brutal tag team matchup, the team now calling themselves the Hounds of Hell, Brody King and Buddy Matthews, with Julia Hart in their corner, defeated the Gates of Agony of Bishop Khan and Toa Leona in just over 10 minutes. In a 4-way eliminator match to determine who would next challenge Mercedes Moné for the TBS title, coming up this Wednesday's Dynamite. Yuka Sakazaki defeated Diona Purrazzo, Queen Aminata, and Serena Deeb to earn that shot. The main event saw AEW International Champion Konosuke Takeshita retain over Katsuyori Shibata in another classic hard-hitting match between two great athletes. So that's all we got in terms of the last piece of wrestling news that I do need to kind of report on is the passing of another regional legend, Ed Wiskowski, who is, of course, known primarily for his work in the Pacific Northwest territory of Don Owens in the late 70s, and then in the 80s through his time in the AWA as Colonel De Beers, also in his time in UWF. Colonel De Beers passed away yesterday at the age of 80 years old. Ed Wiskowski. He, of course, as I said, was known for his time in the Pacific Northwest territory of the NWA, Don Owens area. He, of course, had teamed up in the mid to late 70s with Playboy Buddy Rose, as well as portraying the character known as Mega Maharaja, or Mega Maharashi. And then when he went on to the AWA, took on the pro-apartheid character of Colonel De Beers, and subsequently took that, after, AWA's demise in 1991, took that character to the UWF, to Herb Abrams' UWF. So what we're going to do right now, of course, before we wrap up, I want to do a moment of silence for the late, great Ed Wiskowski. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we will then we'll move on to the This Day in Each History. All right. With that being done and said, of course, now, of course, today being Monday, January 27th, 2025. Let's take a look back at this day in each history. History! And just as we talked about one person's passing from this world, we're going to actually go back. Go back to. I'd like to actually wish a happy 70th birthday here as I pull this up. Wish a happy 70th birthday to voice actor Kerrigan Mahan. Kerrigan Mahan, of course, known including for doing the voice of Bunta Fujiwa in Initial D. He also did Yamcha in one of the Dragon Ball adaptations. But probably most of us would know him from his work on Static Shock as Edwin Alva, one of Static's primary adversaries. Happy 70th birthday to Kerrigan Mahan, voice actor, who of course provided the voice of Edwin Alva in the Static Shock cartoon of the late 90s. Oh, with that being said, let's move on to the next piece in each history. And we move ahead to the year 2000. On this date, 25 years ago today, in the year 2000, as I will bring that up here. Studio Pierrot's the Super Milk Chan show, also known as Oh Super Milk Chan, premiered on Japanese television on this date back in 2000. So on this date back in 2000, the Super Milk Chan show premiered on Japanese television on this date back in 2000, 25 years ago today. Oh, Super Milk Chan, what it was known as in Japan there. Now, moving ahead to the year 2020, 5 years ago today, on this date, 5 years ago today, the night after WrestleMania that year, WWE held its Monday Night Raw event, the AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas. On this night, on the night after WrestleMania here, the main event saw Eric Rowan defeat Brandon Weiss. See, Liv Morgan defeated Lana. You actually had a number of matches for the 24/7 as initially Mojo Rawley defeated No Way Jose to retain the 24/7 championship. Then R-Truth defeated Mojo Rawley to win it. And then Mojo Rawley won it back from R-Truth. So you had that exchange. You had Charlotte Flair defeat Asuka by DQ. In a match for the WWE United States Championship, Humberto Carrillo defeated Andrade by DQ, with Andrade retaining the title in the match, as a title cannot change hands on a DQ or a countout. And in a match for the WWE Raw Tag Team Champions, Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy retained over Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe. harkening back to their times together on the independent scene. And then in the match, the night opened up with Drew McIntyre defeating Gallows and Anderson, the Good Brothers, a 2-on-1 handicap match. Oh, there we go with that one. Now, final piece of niche history as we come here. On this day in 2021, four years ago today, on this date 4 years ago today, the 5th issue of Department of Truth from Image Comics went on sale on this date back in 2021. It sold for $3.99. It was 28 pages. The story was titled The Shadow Play, written by James Tynion IV, with art by Martin Simmons, and Adhia Bidilkar did the lettering. So on this date, 4 years ago today, the 5th issue of Department of Truth from Image Comics went on sale on this date back in 2021. With all that being said, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Of course, be back here tomorrow night with more niche news. Also, this Sunday, R.J. Carter from Critical Blast will be joining me as we'll be looking back to comics that went on sale in April 1940. We'll be looking at prize comics. So I hope you guys will be back here for that. I hope you guys will be back here tomorrow night and every night to get caught up on all the latest and niche news. With that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.